Costa Rica sets details ahead of national elections next February 6th. The Peruvian government announced the cease of all of RESPSOL's operations in the country after the oil spill in the coast of Ventanilla on January 15th. The Malian government expelled the French ambassador Joel Mayer on Monday after Paris criticized the government's current management of transitional affairs in the African nation. Hi, this is From the South. I'm your news anchor Diego Martin from the teleSUR studios in Havana. We begin with the news. Costa Rica sets details ahead of national elections next February 6th. On Sunday, political parties held rallies and caravans as it was the last day to hold meetings in public areas prior to the national elections of next February 6th. Fabricio Alvarado, presidential candidate of the New Republic Party, said that activities were held in different points of the country, while the Liberal candidate Jose Maria Figueres asked citizens to participate in the elections. So far, the electoral material is being sent to the several polling stations as the country also sets COVID protocols for voting day. The president of Honduras, Xiomara Castro, announced no Monday that she will send a decree to the National Congress to make way for reforms in the electrical industry, one of the promises she made during her swearing-in. With this action, the head of Senate seeks to aid over 1 million Honduran families who live in conditions of poverty. On her official Twitter account, President Xiomara Castro informed as follows: that agreed to reform the general law of the electrical industry is underway, so 1,335,000 impoverished families can benefit from free energy. I will send it today for its approval in the National Congress. Ex-President Manuel Zelaya, on his account, said the following: "We cannot believe it. The general law of the industry does not allow poor people to be subsidized. Neoliberal model." President Xiomara Castro begins her term requesting Congress to change the law so we can help the poor. As part of the elections provided for in the Montana Agreement, members of the National Transitional Council in Haiti elected the president and the prime minister of the two-year transitional government, which the signatories of this political agreement hope to put in place. Fritz Alphonse Jean has been elected as president of the possible transitional government, accompanied by former parliamentarian Stephen Benoit as prime minister. Organizers explained that Fritz Alphonse Jean was elected with 25 votes against 15 votes in favor of Edgar LeBlanc Fields. The signatories of the civil society agreement have expressed their intention to install the new government on February 7th, despite the refusal of Prime Minister Ariel Henry, for whom there is no legal way to install a legitimate president without holding elections. In Chile, around 6,000 people demonstrated this Sunday in the streets of the city of Iquique in the north of the country against Venezuelan asylum seekers tearing apart their makeshift camp and belongings. The call was concentrated in the downtown area of that town to advance along Cavancha Beach towards the Playa Brava, where the demonstrators carried elusive banners and Chilean flags. The destruction of tents, clothes, and supplies was denounced, and in the face of this, the inaction of the police force. It should be recalled that last October, a group of demonstrators also held a march that ended with the burning of migrants' belongings that were stationed in the sector. The xenophobic practices against Venezuelan asylum seekers have been ignited by the discriminatory discourse of outgoing President Sebastián Piñera's administration. Now, Cubans protested against the U.S. embargo ahead of the 60th anniversary of having been subject to that cruel U.S. policy. With the 60th anniversary of the U.S. imposed embargo on the Caribbean island, Cubans in the city of Santa Clara have come out to the streets to protest against the economic sanctions. Demonstrators were seen riding motorcycles, bicycles, and horses and yelling the slogan of Cuba sí, bloqueo no. Activists had Cuban flags and toured the whole city towards the Che Guevara's memorial, a space filled with symbolism and final destination of the initiative. Cuba's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Carlos Fernández de Cosio, responded to Washington's criticism of the Cuban government's record on human rights by saying that the United States has no right to give lessons to anyone and denounced the cruelty of the 60-year-long blockade.
The United States has a disastrous record in terms of respect for human rights. It has a disastrous record in terms of the democratic rights of its population, and the United States has no right to give lessons to anyone. We understand that all countries, including Cuba, have a lot of room for improvement in the area of human rights. The U.S. government today does not have the will, and if it does have the will, it does not have the political capacity or does not have the political will to change a policy that its officials and a good part of the U.S. political class knows is failed, immoral, punishing the entire population of a country. Few things can illustrate cruelty as much as what the U.S. government has done against the Cuban people in this period of the COVID-19 pandemic, something that will be difficult for generations of Cubans to forget.
We'll be right back after this very short break. Don't go away. Hi, welcome back to From the South. The Peruvian government announced the cease of all of RESPSOL's operations in the country after the oil spill in the coast of Ventanilla on January 15th. Ruan Ramirez, Minister of the Environment of Peru, informed on Monday that this measure is applied in response to the transnational oil company's deaf ears regarding the government's demands on damage fines to compensate for the spillage of crude oil in Ventanilla. The authorities said that the cease of RESPSOL's activities will be effective for as long as the corporation continues to avoid its responsibilities, also asking it to offer in return technical guarantees to prevent similar disasters. RESPSOL has not made public any interest in participating in the cleanup activities prompted by its own negligence. On January 15th, during a crude oil downloading operation, nearly 12,000 barrels of oil were spilled on the Peruvian Sea, which polluted over 155 square kilometers in those waters. Torrential rain in Brazil's Sao Paulo state between Friday and Sunday left at least 18 people dead. According to Sao Paulo state government, the downpouring precipitations left 18 deaths, including 7 children, and left around 500 people homeless or displaced. After flying over affected areas, Governor João Doria announced he was releasing $2.7 million to help the 10 most affected cities and 645 municipalities in Brazil's most populous state, home to 46 million people. Of the victims, 11 died on Sunday after landslides buried several homes and cities in the interior of the state, and there were also 9 injured and 5 missing. Brazil has been badly affected by several major weather-related disasters since the rainy season began in October. In the northern Bahia state, 24 people died and another 19. Also in southeastern Minas Gerais state, where thousands have been displaced. In the Dominican Republic, 13 provinces were declared on green alert due to a cold front advancing to the northwest of the country. The National Meteorological Office announced that since early Sunday morning, this phenomenon has caused clusters of clouds generating downpours, thunderstorms, and isolated wind gusts. They also informed that the most affected provinces will be those located on the Atlantic coast, the Central Mountain Range, and some sectors of the border area, while in the municipalities of Santo Domingo, there will be occasional showers and possible gusts of wind. This Monday morning, the Civil Defense reported that 100 homes have been flooded after heavy rains in the municipality of Sabana Iglesia in the last few hours. Now, the United Nations Security Council met on Monday for the first time to discuss the conflict near Ukraine's border, while the United States and North Atlantic Treaty Organization maintained its pressure on Russia under the pretext of preventing an alleged attack on the neighboring country. The meeting, called at a request of the United States, came amid warnings that Moscow is planning to invade the former Soviet state. Russia has repeatedly denied this, but said the possibility of Ukraine joining NATO threatens its national security. U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield said Russia's actions pose a clear threat to international peace and security and the UN Charter. But Russia's Deputy Ambassador to the UN, Dmitry Polyansky, described recent U.S. warnings of a possible invasion as having no case, calling the request for a UN meeting a clear stunt. The Chinese delegation has also opposed the decision to hold meetings on the Ukrainian situation as suggested by the U.S. delegation, claiming an imminent war in the letter to the president of the institution dated January 27th.
China opposes the Security Council's holding of this open meeting as requested by the United States. The permanent representative of the U.S. to the UN, in her letter to the President of the Council dated January 27th, claimed that the reason why the U.S. is asking the Council to hold this open meeting was that Russia's deployment of troops along the Ukrainian border posed a threat to international peace and security. China cannot align itself with this point of view. Some countries, led by the United States, have claimed that there will soon be a war in Ukraine. Russia has repeatedly stated that it has no plans to launch any military action, and Ukraine has made it clear that it does not need a war. Under such circumstances, what is the basis for the countries concerned to insist that there may be a war?
And the Russian Federation asked for the appropriateness of a vote on a Eastern European region as initiative of the United States is being taken in the region.
The delegation of the U.S., in explaining its proposal on convening this meeting, has pointed out that it considers the deployment of Russian troops within Russian territory as a threat to international peace and security. This is not only unacceptable interference in the domestic affairs of our state, but also an attempt to mislead the international community on the situation in the region and also the reason for the current global tensions. We would urge all colleagues to not use the rostrum of the Security Council to push forward the propaganda beliefs of our colleagues. We would also like to remind members of the Security Council that the Russian delegation in December announced its plans to have an annual discussion of the situation in Ukraine during our presidency of the Council that starts from tomorrow.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov urged the United States and North Atlantic Treaty Organization to stop exacerbating tensions over Ukraine. Likewise, the Secretary of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, Nikolai Patrushev, also rejected warnings about a planned invasion. Other Kremlin officials have said that member states of the Security Council would not support Washington's accusations of an alleged attack by Moscow on Ukrainian territory. We have more stories coming up after this final short break. Please stay with us. Hi, welcome back. The Malian government expelled the French ambassador Joël Meyer on Monday after Paris criticized the government's current management of transitional affairs in the African nation. Malian authorities gave Meyer a 72-hour deadline to abandon the country after considering, quote, hostile and outrageous, unquote, the recent declarations of France's foreign ministry. The text highlights that the statements are adverse to the development of friendly ties between the two countries. Likewise, Mali insisted on its willingness to maintain talks and seek cooperation with all of its international partners, including France, through mutual respect and on the basis of non-intervention in internal affairs. Uganda and Rwanda reopened their Gatuna border post on Monday, signaling the end of 3 years' frosty relations between the two East African nations. A day after Rwanda announced the reopening of the border effective starting on January 31st, business operators, including clearing agents, customs, immigration staff, and logistics sector players, rushed back to the border area to book space and prepare for the resumption of operations. The businesses, like workers and services and activities that depended on the border traffic, such as money changers, vendors, taxi operators, and others, closed shop and traders left soon after the border was closed in February 2019. Two-way trade collapsed back then as tensions between Kigali and Kampala spiraled over rival accusations of espionage and political meddling.
Everything is great. We thank the Lord that the border is reopened. It is really good that it has reopened, and we are happy for that. We would lose a lot of our money because we could not cross the border. Sometimes when you wanted to buy something, you had to buy by mobile money. Otherwise, they would buy you what you don't want. Now we are happy that it has been resolved.
Burkina Faso's military junta on Monday reinstated the country's constitution, but it suspended since it seized power a week ago, modifying institutions under the argument of pending the establishment of transitional bodies. According to the Patriotic Movement for the Safeguard and Restoration, the junta ensures the continuity of the state pending the establishment of transitional bodies, according to a fundamental act of 37 articles read on national television by Lieutenant Colonel Cyprien Caboret. The military officer specified that this lifts the suspension of the constitution, which completes for the transition period until the return to constitutional order on a date that was not specified. The latest move by the junta follows a Burkina Faso suspension by the African Union on Monday, a week after the volatile country suffered its latest coup as envoys from West Africa and the United Nations headed for talks with the new junta. The African Union's 15-member Peace and Security Council voted to suspend the participation of Burkina Faso in all AU activities until the effective restoration of constitutional order in the country. The move came 3 days after the Economic Community of West African States also suspended Burkina from its ranks and warned of possible sanctions pending the outcome of meetings with the junta. And Venezuela received a shipment of 1 million doses of the Cuban vaccine Soberana Plus to help fight against COVID-19. The Venezuela Health Minister Carlos Alvarado received the immunogenic at Simón Bolívar International Airport. On November 28th, the Cuban Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology reported a previous shipment of more than 1 million doses of the Abdala vaccine were sent to Venezuela as part of the agreement reached between Havana and Caracas, by which until the end of 2021, the Bolivarian nation would receive 16 million doses of Abdala. According to President Nicolas Maduro, the new shipment will help reinforce the vaccination campaign against COVID-19 with already 96% of the population fully inoculated. We've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at teleSUR English. You can also follow us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I'm Guillermo Martin. Thanks for watching.